Did you know in the books, the Tyrells were trying to pry Tommen away from Cersei by getting him to take up jousting and attend small council meetings so he could be free of her influence, whereas Cersei wants to keep Tommen completely within her clutches. Cersei even comments on this in the books when Margaery and all her ladies-in-waiting go riding together. Had it been up to her, Margaery, she would have had Tommen doing all these things as well. She was forever inviting him to accompany her and her hens on their adventures, and the boy was forever pleading with his mother for leave to go along, and Cersei fears that. Tommen needs to wean him away from Margaery and her hens. In time, they might grow as close as Robert and his boyhood friend Ned Stark. Now, is Margaery doing all of this on purpose? Probably, since she knows Cersei helped make Joffrey. It is hinted by actress Natalie Dormer that Margaery is not a virgin through her interactions with Tommen and Sansa when the topic comes up. However, in the books, Margaery is only 15, and even though Cersei accuses Margaery of adultery, she is undecided on the matter. When Margaery and her cousins' hymens, or maidenheads, are revealed to be broken, Cersei thinks to herself, I do hope the little queen and her cousins enjoyed those rights of theirs, which is a common occurrence for highborn girls. So Cersei doesn't really care whether Margaery is or isn't a virgin, so long as she can diminish the young queen's power without reducing her own. However, it is hard to believe that Renly didn't even at least try to get Margaery pregnant when they were married. However, it would be ironic if Margaery were guilty of the charges against her. Margaery wasn't arrested for covering up her brother's salacious affairs, but rather because on Maiden's Day, Margaery fasts and purifies herself. This then inspires Cersei, who orders Sir Osney Kettleback to confess to the High Sparrow that he had slept with Margaery, Eleanor, and Mega while Alla watched. Osney goes to falsely confess, and Margaery and her cousins are arrested by the Faith. Her clothes are taken, and she is given a rough spun shift to wear. Margaery is separated from her cousins and visited every hour by a Septa, even during the night, who asks Margaery confess her fornications. Septa Moel examines Margaery and finds that a maidenhead has been broken. Moel reports this at court, where Pycelle adds how he provided moon tea for Margaery on several occasions. Cersei has several men at court arrested for having affairs with Margaery. However, the small folk who love Queen Margaery gather before the Great Sept to protest Margaery's arrest. The betting scene between Tommen and Margaery in Season 5 was an uncomfortable watch because of the age gap between the underage Lannister king and his much older new wife. For example, in real life, Dean Charles, who plays Tommen, was 16 at the time of filming, while Natalie Dormer, who plays Margaery, was 33 years old. In the books, this scene does not take place because Tommen is only 8 years old. Reflecting on the plotline, the Tommen actors stated, I wasn't expecting that, and creators, David Benioff and Dan Wise as a joke came up to me and told me, oh, we've done you a favor. We've written you in a cheeky little sex scene. And I was like, cheers. That was the last thing I was expecting. And after filming the scene, Dean Charles, who plays Tommen, said, we're actors. Natalie's a lovely person. She made me feel unbelievably comfortable. Hopefully she was comfortable with me, but the sex scene and stuff, it all ran smoothly. The original version of Margaery and Tommen's scene in Season 4, Episode 4, where she sneaks into his bedchamber, was way more sexual and seductive than what was depicted in the show. After reading the script, Natalie Dormer, who plays Margaery, felt very uncomfortable with the scene and refused to do it unless the scene was toned down dramatically, which is what happened in the end. Natalie explains, that scene was altered because I phoned Dan Wise and David Benioff and said, I'm not comfortable doing this. Margaery does not want to be queen, which might sound shocking to show watchers. But this is Littlefinger's assessment of the young Tyrell girl to Sansa in A Storm of Swords. She will keep her queenly crown and her maidenhead, neither of which she especially wants. But what does that matter? This is because it is Mace Tyrell who wants Margaery to be queen. So in the books, Margaery Tyrell does seem to just be a sweet, innocent girl just doing what she is told. However, a potential reason why Margaery's character was changed was so that she would match the book-only character Arianna Martell, who was not included in the Game of Thrones TV show. Arianna is conniving, power-hungry, and seductive, all traits that were given to Margaery in the show. Margarey Tyrell's character also matches Anne Boleyn, who ironically Natalie Dormer played in The Tudors. Renly planned to marry Margarey to Robert, the same way Viserys took a much younger Alicent Hightower to wife, even though he had children from his first wife who were the apparent heirs to the Iron Throne. So, if Cersei died, things could have played out like in House of the Dragon, where there would have been a red House Lannister faction at court supporting Joffrey, Tommen, and Marcella, and a green faction supporting Margaery's children by Robert. Then when Robert dies of old age, a war of succession would erupt, with House Tyrell fighting against House Lannister, since Joffrey is crazy and born of incest. It would honestly depend on who Joffrey, Tommen, and Marcella ended up marrying to secure alliances, and whoever Margaery's children ended up marrying as well, to determine the outcome. Maybe the Green faction would marry Daenerys and convince her to invade with their help. Natalie Dormer, who played Margarey Tyrell, didn't marry but entered into a civil partnership with her longtime partner David Oakes in a secretive ceremony in Somerset in 2023. The private event, attended only by close family and friends, was celebrated with espresso martinis and an intimate dinner. The couple began dating in 2019 and had a daughter together in 2021. David Oakes is a British actor best known for being in The White Queen, Victoria, and Vikings Valhalla. Despite suggesting to try and convince the Tyrells to join the Lannisters and have Joffrey Baratheon marry Margaery, Tyrion Lannister didn't expect them to accept the offer at all. There had been no word from Peter Baelish since he had ridden off for Bitterbridge. That might mean nothing, or everything. Even Varys could not say. The eunuch has suggested that perhaps Littlefinger had met some misfortune on the roads. He might even be slain. Tyrion had snorted in derision. If Littlefinger is dead, then I'm a giant. More likely, the Tyrells were balking at the proposed marriage. Tyrion could scarcely blame them. If I were Mace Tyrell, I would sooner have Joffrey's head on a pike than his in my daughter. It is funny that Tyrion Lannister had no faith in the Lannister-Tyrell alliance, considering it was the Lannisters' only hope for victory. We get some brief but interesting insights from Loras Tyrell on his abilities compared to his elder brother, Garland, who was notably not included in the show. On the edge of the yard, a lone knight with a pair of golden roses on his shield was holding off 3 foes. Even as they watched, he caught one of them alongside the head, knocking him senseless. "Is that your brother?" Sansa asked. "It is, my lady," said Sir Loras. Garland often trains against 3 men, or even 4. In battle it is seldom 1 against 1, he says, so he likes to be prepared. "He must be very brave." "He is a great knight," Sir Loras replied. "A better sword than me, in truth, though I'm the better lance." It is honestly a shame the show cut Loras's 2 older brothers, since it would have made the Tyrells so much more interesting. Sansa Stark was having second thoughts when Margaery invited her for supper. It was right after it was declared that Joffrey and Margaery would be wed. The invitation seemed innocent enough, but every time Sansa read it, her tummy tightened into a knot. She's to be queen now. She's beautiful and rich, and everyone loves her. Why would she want to sup with a traitor's daughter? It could be curiosity. Perhaps Margaery Tyrell wanted to get the measure of the rival she's displaced. Does she resent me, I wonder? Does she think I bear her ill will? She studied the invitation, which looked to be written in Margaery's own hand. If Joff was behind the invitation, he could have some cruel jape planned to shame her in the older girl's eyes. Would he command the Kingsguard to strip her naked once again? The last time, Tyrion had stopped him, but the imp could not save her now. When Sansa Stark is with Margaery Tyrell's cousins in King's Landing, she sees her past self in them. As for Eleanor, she was promised to a young squire. They would be wed as soon as he won his spurs. He had won her favour in the Battle of the Blackwater, where he'd slain a Myrish crossbowman and a Mullendore man-at-arms. Alan said her favour made him fearless, said Mega. He says he shouted her name for his battle cry. Isn't that ever so gallant? Someday, I want some champion to wear my favour and kill 100 men. Eleanor told her to hush, but looked pleased all the same. They are children, Sansa thought. They are silly little girls, even Eleanor. They've never seen a battle. They've never seen a man die. They know nothing. Their dreams were full of songs and stories, the ways her had been before Joffrey cut her father's head off. Sansa pitied them. Sansa envied them. There's a moment where Sansa Stark urges Margarey Tyrell not to marry Joffrey Baratheon. Sister. Sansa had once dreamed of having a sister like Margarey, beautiful and gentle, with all the world's graces at her command. How can I let my sister marry Joffrey, she thought, and suddenly her eyes were full of tears. Margarey, please, she said, you mustn't. It was hard to get the words out. You mustn't marry him. He's not like he seems. He's not. He'll hurt you. I shouldn't think so, Margarey smiled confidently. It's brave of you to warn me, but you need not fear. Joff's spoilt and vain, and I don't doubt that he's as cruel as you say, but father forced him to name Loras to his Kingsguard before he would agree to the match. I shall have the finest knight in the Seven Kingdoms protecting me, night and day. So our little lion had best behave, hadn't he? Margarey Tyrell's actress is also a marathon runner. Natalie Dormer didn't just master King's Landing's politics, she conquered 26.2 miles of London pavement. In April 2014, right as Game of Thrones Season 4 aired, Dormer ran the London Marathon in an astonishing 3 hours, 50 minutes and 57 seconds, under 4 hours. She joked she was annoyed because she missed her personal best by mere seconds, and then, unbelievably, showed up to the Thrones premiere the very next morning in high heels. 2 years later, she did it again. Another London Marathon, another sub-4 hour finish. Dormer used the races to raise money for charities like the NSPCC, balancing grueling trailing with filming demanding court scenes in corsets. She'd said long runs actually helped clear her head from work stress. Margarey might prefer the rose gardens to the running track, but Natalie Dormer proved she's got a warrior's heart beneath that royal smile. In the novels, Cersei finds herself forced to watch Margarey Tyrell play the part of the perfect queen. And unlike the show's toned-down rivalry, the books lets us dive deep into Cersei's mind, where every word from Margarey feels like poison dipped in honey. So when Margarey says she loved Joffrey dearly, Cersei's true thoughts hiss forth in her mind. Liar, if you had loved him even for an instant, you would not have been in such unseemly haste to wed his brother. His crown was all you ever wanted. The truth is, for half a groat, she would have slapped the blushing bride right there upon the dais, in view of half the court. Simply put, Margaery's charm is Cersei's curse, and every smile she offers is a blade twisting deeper into the queen's pride. Cersei Lannister was not pleased that Margarey Tyrell ended up marrying Tommen so soon after Joffrey's death. Margarey wore the same gown she had worn to marry Joffrey, an airy confection of sheer ivory silk, Myrish lace, and seed pearls. Cersei herself was still in black, as a sign of mourning for her murdered firstborn. His widow might be pleased to laugh and drink and dance and put all the memory of Joff aside, but his mother would not forget him so easily. This is wrong, she thought. It is too soon. A year, 2 years. That would have been time enough. Highgarden should have been content with a betrothal. Cersei stared back to where Mace Tyrell stood between his wife and mother. You forced me into this travesty of a wedding, my lord, and I shall not soon forget it. Cersei Lannister was frequently insecure about her own beauty once Margarey Tyrell entered the fold as the young queen. Cersei glanced past Tommen to where Margarey sat laughing with her father. She is pretty enough, she had to admit, but most of that is youth. Even peasant girls are pretty at a certain age, when they are still fresh and innocent and unspoilt, and most of them have the same brown hair and brown eyes as she does. Only a fool would ever claim she was more beautiful than I. The world was full of fools, however. So was her son's court. Cersei Lannister first gets the idea of plotting Margarey Tyrell's downfall when she speaks with her female love interest, Taena, otherwise known as Lady Merryweather. Sir Boris Blount escorted the Queen back to her apartments where she found Lady Merryweather chuckling with Jocelyn and Dorcas. What is it you all find so amusing? The Redwyne twins, said Taena. Both of them have fallen in love with Lady Margaery. They used to fight over which would be the next Lord of the Arbor. Now both of them want to join the Kingsguard, just to be near the little queen. The Redwinds have always had more freckles than wits. It was a useful thing to know though. If horror or slobber were to be found abed with Margarey, Cersei wondered if the little queen liked freckles. Cersei Lannister's plan to use Osney Kettleback was effectively killing two birds in Margarey Tyrell and Jon Snow with one stone. But where am I going to be after we, Osney asked. Do the deed? Cersei gave him a barbed smile. Lying with a queen is treason. Tommen would have no choice but to send you to the wall. The wall? A black cloak would do well with your eyes, and that black hair of yours. No one returns from the wall. You will. All you need to do is kill a boy. What boy? A bastard boy in league with Stannis. He's young and green, and you'll have 100 men. I've killed more boys than I can count, he insisted. Once this boy is dead, I'd get my pardon from the king? That and a lordship. A queen must have a consort, one who knows no fear. What did Cersei Lannister think of her plan to get rid of Margarey Tyrell and Jon Snow in the books? I was made for this, she told herself. It was the sheer elegance of it that pleased her most. Even Mace Tyrell would not dare defend his darling daughter if she was caught in the act with the likes of Osney Kettleblack. And neither Stannis Baratheon nor Jon Snow would have cause to wonder why Osney was being sent to the wall. She would see to it that Sir Osmond was the one to discover his brother with the little queen. That way, the loyalty of the other two Kettleblacks need not be impunged. If father could only see me now, he would not be so quick to speak of marrying me off again. A pity he's so dead. Him and Robert, Jon Arryn, Ned Stark, Renly Baratheon, all dead. Only Tyrion remains, and not for long. Cersei Lannister was hostile towards Tommen because of Margarey Tyrell. The king was pouting. I want to sit on the Iron Throne, he told her. You always let Joff sit up there. Joffrey was 12. But I'm the king. The throne belongs to me. Who told you that? No one told me. No one. Is that what you call your lady wife? The queen could smell Margarey Tyrell all over this rebellion. If you lie to me, I'll have no choice but to send for Pate and have him beaten till he bleeds. Pate was Tommen's whipping boy, as he had been Joffrey's. Is that what you want? No, the king muttered sullenly. Who told you? He shuffled his feet. Lady Margarey. He knew better than to call her queen in his mother's hearing. That is better, Tommen. I have grave matters to decide, matters that you are too young to understand. I do not need a silly little boy fidgeting on the throne behind me and distracting me with childish questions. There's a tense moment when Margarey Tyrell suddenly calls out Cersei Lannister, who accidentally was thinking about Jaime, not Robert Baratheon, when talking about Tommen's father. Mother, did you see me? Tommen burbled happily. I broke my lance on the shield, and the bag never hit me. I was watching from across the yard. You did very well, Tommen. I would expect no less of you. Jousting is in your blood. One day you shall rule the lists as your father did. No man will stand before him. Margarey Tyrell gave the queen a coy smile. But I never knew that King Robert was so accomplished at the joust. Pray, tell us, your grace, what tourneys did he win? What great knights did he unseat? I know the king should like to hear about his father's victories. A flush crept up Cersei's neck. The girl had caught her out. Robert Baratheon had been an indifferent jouster, in truth. During tourneys, he had much preferred the melee, where he could beat men bloody with blunted axe or hammer. It had been Jaime she had been thinking of when she spoke. Cersei Lannister quizzes Lady Tanna Merryweather as to whether Margarey Tyrell really is a maiden or not. Tell me true, my lady. Do you think Margarey is still a maiden? She says she is, your grace. So she does. What do you say? Tanya's black eyes sparkled with mischief. When she wed Lord Renly at Highgarden, I helped disrobe him for the bedding. His lordship was a well-made man, and lusty. I saw the proof when we tumbled him into the wedding bed where his bride awaited him, as naked as her name day. blushing prettily beneath the coverlets. Sir Loris had carried her up the steps himself. Margarey may say that the marriage was never consummated, that Lord Renly had drunk too much wine at the wedding feast. But, I promise you, the bit between his legs was anything but weary when last I saw it. We learn that Maester Pycelle was a frequent visitor to Margarey Tyrell, and this particularly irked Cersei Lannister. I understand the little queen has many admirers amongst our own household knights, the Redwyne twins, Sir Talad. Who else, pray tell? Lady Merryweather gave a shrug. Sir Lampart the Fool, who hides a good eye behind a patch, Bayard Norcross, Courtney Greenhill, the brothers Woodwright, sometimes Portafer, and often Lucentin. Oh, and Grand Maester Pycelle is a frequent visitor. Pycelle, truly? Had that doddering old worm forsaken the lion for the rose? If so, he will regret it. Who else? Cersei Lannister believed Joffrey Baratheon would have seen through Margarey Tyrell's deceptions. She also believed that House Tyrell played a role in Tyrion's escape. Every day, in every way, she tries to steal him from me. Joffrey would have seen through her schemer's smile and let her know her place, but Tommen was more gullible. She knew Joff was too strong for her, Cersei thought, remembering the gold coin Qyburn had found. For House Tyrell to hope to rule, he had to be removed. It came back to her that Margarey and her hideous grandmother had once plotted to marry Sansa Stark to the little queen's crippled brother, Willis. Lord Tywin had forestalled that by stealing a march on them and wedding Sansa to Tyrion. But the link had been there. They are all in it together, she realized with a start. The Tyrells bribed the jailers to free Tyrion and whisked him down the Rose Road to join his vile bride. By now, the both of them are safe in Highgarden. Tommen and Margarey as King and Queen of Westeros, with Kevan Lannister as Hand and Cersei hidden away in Castle Rock, probably would have been the most peaceful and best outcome for Westeros, even more than Stannis, Jon, or Daenerys. For example, for Stannis, Daenerys, or Jon Snow to become King or Queen of Westeros means more war in the face of the White Walker invasion, whereas Tommen and Margarey would probably give Westeros a very peaceful and stable rule for about 50 years while also taking the White Walker invasion very seriously and rallying the Seven Kingdoms against it. But what do you think? That Cersei Lannister was jealous of Margarey Tyrell. While Queen Cersei rules the Seven Kingdoms in his son's stead, she realizes that Margarey has way too much influence on the boy king. I wouldn't mind them pecking though, her son went on to say. I should go to court with you every day to listen. Margarey says, a deal too much, Cersei snapped. For half a groat, I'd gladly have her tongue torn out. Don't say that, Tommen shouted suddenly, his round little face turning red. You leave her tongue alone. Don't you touch her. I'm the king, not you. She stared at him, incredulous. What did you say? I'm the king. I get to say who has their tongues torn out, not you. I won't let you hurt Margarey. I won't. I forbid it. Cersei Lannister wanted to have Margarey Tyrell dead, believing that the young woman is the younger and more beautiful queen she was told will replace her. And after seeing her influence on Tommen, Cersei decides that Margarey must die. Knowing what needed to be done was one thing though. Knowing how to do it was another. Jaime could no longer be relied on. A sudden sickness would be best, but the gods were seldom so obliging. How then? A knife, a pillow, a cup of heartsbane. All of those posed problems. When an old man dies in his sleep, no one thought twice of it. But a girl of 6 and 10, found dead in her bed, was certain to raise awkward questions. Besides, Margarey never slept alone. Even with Sir Loras dying, there were swords about her night and day. Swords have two edges though. The very men who guard her could be used to bring her down. The evidence would need to be so overwhelming that even Margaery's own Lord Father would have no choice but to consent to her execution. That would not be easy. Her lovers are not like to confess, knowing it would mean their heads as well as hers. Cersei made Pycelle confess that Margarey was drinking moon tea. Cersei threatens him. "Your oaths will be small comfort in the black cells," she warned him. "I'll hear the truth, or you'll wear chains." Pycelle collapsed to his knees. "I beg you, I was your Lord Father's man, and a friend to you in the matter of Lord Arryn. I could not survive the dungeons, not again." Tyrion put him there the first time. "Why does Margarey send for you?" She desires... She... Say it!" He cringed. "Moon tea," he whispered. "Moon tea for..." "Later," Cersei will say. "The little queen has appetites that Tommen is as yet too young to satisfy. She may claim that Renly never touched her, but I will not believe it." This was the life of Margarey Tyrell before A Game of Thrones. She lived at Highgarden with her 3 older brothers, Willis, Garland, and Loras. When she was a little girl, Willis used to read to her and draw her pictures. Margarey had been riding horses since she was old enough to walk. According to Cersei, Margarey and Loras look more alike than Cersei and her twin Jaime. Also, Renly Baratheon would claim that Margarey looks like Lyanna Stark. However, Ned does not agree. Margarey is Olenna's protege. The Queen of Thorns made certain that Margarey was capable of protecting herself from those who might use her or abuse her. Varys describes Margarey as sweet and tractable. Sansa considers Margarey to be sweet and gentle, while Cersei considers her to be restless, as Margarey often goes for a ride, a trip by boat, or out hawking. Unbeknownst to Eddard, Renly and Loras were hoping to rid themselves of Queen Cersei Lannister by getting King Robert to become infatuated with Margarey, since to them she supposedly looked like Lyanna. Varys informs Illyroy Mopatis of this, saying that Loras writes his father, Lord Mace Tyrell, urging him to send Margarey to court. During the Hands tourney, Robert mentions to Eddard that Renly has been telling him about Loras's sister, a young girl as lovely as a dawn. There is a massive conspiracy that the Maesters are trying to wipe out all the Targaryens, and the show hints at this, with Grand Maester Mellos always siding with Otto Hightower. You can see the two of them are always exchanging looks, and Mellos is thought to be responsible for making Viserys sick, until Grand Maester Orwyle stopped the leechings and gave Viserys proper medicine. The last massive piece of evidence comes from the letter Luke gave Bormund Baratheon. It's believed the Storm's End Maester deliberately twisted the words in the letter to turn Baratheon against Rhaenyra by misrepresenting its contents to stir anger in Bormund, and this would lead to the tragic death of Luke and spark the devastating Dance of the Dragons. There's a theory that the Maesters schemed to form the Stark, Tully, Baratheon and Arryn alliance in order to remove Aerys and House Targaryen from Westeros. Lady Dustin remarked to Theon Greyjoy how she was pained when she learned that Brandon Stark was to marry Catelyn Tully instead of her, which was all because of his father, Rickard Stark. Rickard Stark had great ambitions too, southern ambitions, that would not be served by having his heir marry the daughter of one of his own vassals. It is the same reason why Rickard sent Ned to Foster with House Arryn. The goal was to exert pressure on Aerys without going to war, with the ideal scenario being having Rhaegar on the throne. Whether this was true or not is redundant in the end, as Aerys essentially kick-started Robert's rebellion when he killed Rickard and Brandon. The Maesters of the Citadel would have killed Maester Aemon if he went to Daenerys, because they are the ones who killed all the dragons last time. Samwell Tarly tells Archmaester Marin, "Aemon would have gone to her, Daenerys, if he had the strength. He wanted us to send a maester to her, to counsel her and protect her and fetch her safely home." "Did he?" Archmaester Maewyn shrugged. "Perhaps it's good that he died before he got to Oldtown. Elsewise, the Grey Sheep might have had to kill him." "Kill him?" Sam said, shocked. "Why?" "If I tell you, they may need to kill you too." Marwyn smiled a ghastly smile, the juice of the sour leaf running red beneath his teeth. "Who do you think killed all the dragons the last time around? Gallant dragon slayers armed with swords?"
he spat. "The world the Citadel is building has no place in it for sorcery or prophecy or glass candles, much less for dragons. Ask yourself why Aemon Targaryen was allowed to waste his life upon the wall, why by rights he should have been raised to Archmaester. His blood was why. He could not be trusted. No more than I can." Anyway, subscribe for more.